Good afternoon, everybody in the room, but also online. Maybe from the Netherlands, good morning still. Thank you all for being here. So today I will be your moderator for this session. I want to say I'm so happy that I'm here, real life, and of all places here on the Netherlands Pavilion to organize our Dutch Circular Economy Day. So I'm happy to have you here with me. And I hope that you're at least as excited as I am. So today the UAE meets the Netherlands, and in the program you can see that we will have speakers from both the Netherlands and the UAE, and they will give you some insights in what is happening today already in the UAE, but also we're going to see if there is ground for collaboration. I think on the next slide we can see that we are here with a delegation from the Netherlands, and for this session we put a couple of these companies that actually are working on waste management or circular plastics in the value chain, and you can see that we almost cover the whole value chain, and a couple of these you will see back later during the session. But for now I would like to introduce you to the first speaker. This is Arnoud Passenier. He works for the Netherlands Ministry of Infrastructure and Water Management, and he's a real expert on both topics, waste management and plastics. Arnoud, I would like to give the floor to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, there's a lot to talk about because it's a great topic, and there are a lot of possibilities to make the world more circular, and happy to share some thoughts and experiences of the Dutch government on circularity in general, waste management in particular, and more in particular how we envisage a future of a circular plastics economy. To start with a history of more than 100 years ago, we started our waste policy in the early 1900s, not because of the environment, but because of public health. So people died because of waste. Well, it's a long time ago, but that started our movement on public policies on waste management. And of course, we collected waste in general, but landfilled it, as a lot of countries nowadays still do. But we came convinced that that was not a sustainable solution in the 1980s. We had a lot of groundwater pollution. We had a lot of yes, we have a small country which is crowded. We don't have the place for all those landfills which were needed to treat all the waste we produce. So we had to change, and we changed with getting off, trying to solve the issue of landfilling by waste incineration, with that we solved the issue of the landfills, but produced another topic, another problem, and that's with waste incineration you produce a lot of CO2 emissions. But at the same time, we concluded that with waste incineration, you need to look at the waste separation by source, because organic waste, if you collect it together with all the other waste, you have several problems. The non-organic waste is polluting the other waste, where you can't do anything with it, but also it disturbs the process of waste incineration because of the low calories within it. So we started in the 1980s with separation at source of organic waste, and developed with a lot of innovations, not only composting plants, but also fermentation processes to get biogas out of it. And nowadays we can do much more with organic waste, using it as a bio-based source of high quality materials. So there's a lot of opportunities to separate organic waste by source and use the materials and also the biogas with it as a new resource for the economy. So that's as some learnings from the Netherlands on organics and waste landfilling and incineration. Nowadays we are looking at further innovations. So we try to get rid of all those incineration plants where our governments, local governments, invested a lot of money in. So it seems so nice to have an incineration plant, but we destroy a lot of materials. Also plastics nowadays, it's a large volume of the waste which is incinerated. For that we try to have those recycling plants available to make it possible to recycle a lot of recyclable materials in order to have no waste anymore for the incineration plants. And as a government, we incentivize the market as much as possible to reduce, to have higher costs with bringing the waste to incineration plants and to landfills, and also to export it, because we don't want our waste seen in Indonesia or the Philippines. We want to take responsibility for our own waste in Europe, in the Netherlands, and we are able, with all the technologies and all the innovative companies, to treat our waste at a high quality. And that's something which only the last decade we saw that it's not enough to recycle. We need to look further. There should be a demand of recycled materials from industry to use it again in new products. So quality of the recycling is also very important. Quality of recycling, of sorting, and new possibilities, new technologies, which make it even better to recycle by using chemical technologies, like Ionica is one of them. So quality is a real incentive for the market nowadays in the Netherlands, to look at it and to invest in those technologies, in those plans of sorting and recycling, in order to meet the demand of the growing demand of the industry to reuse recycled materials in new products. But with that, we are not there, and we know that if we recycle all the materials we produce, we can't meet the demand of all products and all materials. So if we want to reduce CO2 emissions, we should look at other possibilities to have bio-based materials instead of fossils. And with plastics, by example, we promote not only the recycling of materials, but also the bio-based use of materials to reduce CO2 emissions, to be regenerative in our approach, and I think that will be the future. So we have to scale up those innovations on recycling, sorting, recycling, but also adding bio-based materials to the portfolio of all materials to be used. So that is one part of our policy. The second one is that we not only want to recycle more, but also reduce our resource use. And we wastage a lot of materials as well. Okay, yes. We have to find solutions for reuse and refill systems as well. And a great example is here with Holland Water. Well, they reuse all the bottles, but also the water. So that's really exciting to look for opportunities. To say something about plastics in particular. Plastics in the end are a really good material, often the most sustainable material. So we don't want to use those to ban plastics everywhere from society, from the economy, but we want to use it properly. Unnecessary use we want to ban. But the necessary use could have a really good impact on our environment. And for that, we partner intensively with a great community of companies, small and big ones, within the Plastics Pact in the Netherlands, but we also introduced the European Plastics Pact, to see the possibilities of working together on design of packaging, and plastic packaging in particular, of how to create reuse and refill systems in the world, but also to see how we can reuse the recycled materials back into the products and even also in the packaging. So great examples of what we have started, but we for sure...
I think that's a nice cue, because after you, maybe you want to finish your sentence?
Yes, okay, thank you very much, yes. Okay. Yes, that's really promising, and happy to share all the information, but also the achievements of that community in the Netherlands. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so we had quite a journey looking at the Netherlands, looking at waste management, and we're still moving, but we're also still learning. Arnoud just mentioned packaging, how to use the materials that we have. Do we really want to get rid of all the plastics, or should we just use them in a better way? Well, we have here with us today Sarah Jackson, and she is the head of the Circle Coalition, representing almost the whole value chain that's working on packaging. There are brand owners in it, Barouche, Unilever, but also the Emirates Nature. And she will give us a little bit of perspective on what the industry action is against packaging waste pollution in the UAE. I would like to give you the floor, Sarah.
Thank you, Stephanie. So it's a pleasure to be invited here. Thank you very much on behalf of the Circle Coalition. UAE was founded 50 years ago, and as you can see around you when you travel in the country, it's an amazing country. One of the foundation principles that His Highness Sheikh Zayed Al Nahyan, who was the founding father of the UAE, was all around conservation. It was about preserving what there is in the UAE. And the country has developed extremely fast, as you can see. I mean, over 50 years, if you look even 20, 30 years ago, Sheikh Zayed Road was kind of like a single lane road between here and Abu Dhabi. So it really has developed extremely fast. And of course, the price of that development is all of the outcome of waste, construction, development waste, infrastructure, etc. We also have a very mobile population. So a lot of people, because we're all here courtesy of the government, right? So you have a lot of turnover of labor, etc. So all of those things add together to, and with an oil economy, of course, with a relatively high standard of living, all of those things add together to quite a bit of pressure on the environment. In particular, if you look at what happens in the UAE, we as a society in the GCC and in the region, we're actually very wasteful. So we generate about 1.8 kilos of waste per capita per day. So that's municipal solid waste, which is kind of more than double what the rest of the world would do as an average. During the holy month of Ramadan, that can actually go up to about 4.5 kilos per capita today. So we generate a lot of waste. We do have a good waste management infrastructure, but we're also a federation of emirates. So you'll have a federal law which covers from the Ministry of Economy or the Ministry of Climate Change, which will cover how waste is managed. But of course, it comes down to the individual authorities in each emirate to define what that looks like, what is the application. So just to give you a small example of that, not all communities will have a recycling bin available to them. Many of the tower blocks will only have a single chute. So segregation at source is not something that is widely practiced. And even if it is wanting to be practiced, what you find is that the recycle bin in Dubai will be green, it will be blue in Abu Dhabi, and it will be red somewhere else. So there's no consistency of application either. So enforcing the kind of segregation behavior is relatively difficult. So we generate about, well, I mentioned, 40 million metric tons of waste a year. Around 7 million metric tons of that is municipal solid waste, and of that, about 1.1 million is plastic. Biggest part of that is LDPE, which, as you know, is not the easiest thing to recycle. But we do have around a 15 and 20% of HDPE and PET as well. So what we did to try and address this in 2019, it was on the instigation of the Environment Agency in Abu Dhabi, and Emirates Nature, WWF, approached a coalition of industry members to fund a study, a proof of concept pilot study in Abu Dhabi, where we collected material from two sources. We collected clean segregated material from people like Abu Dhabi airports, IKEA, the hotels, etc. But we also collected material from the landfill directly. And we processed that material through recycling facility in Al Ain. It was in partnership with Veolia, which is one of the big environmental service providers. And that material was then processed into pellets and flakes. It was brought back to a converter in Abu Dhabi, where they manufactured logistical items, so plastic pallets, sheeting, water racks, crates for these big 5-gallon water bottles, etc. And that was then sold back to the companies. The companies themselves, as Stephanie mentioned, cover the full spectrum, the value chain. So we've got from the polymer suppliers, we've got packaging, we have the chemical guys, BASF, Dow, all of the big local regional manufacturers, so Pepsi, Coke, Nestle, Unilever, Procter & Gamble, the Agtia Group, which is a big regional player here. We have the packaging guys in there. We have people like the Gulf Petrochemical and Chemical Association, so representing the full scope of the origin of plastic ultimately, right? So together we funded the study, we came out with 35 recommendations. We looked at the barriers for the circular economy here, and we looked at the recommendations to enable the circular economy. So we have 35 of those. 16 of them are all around policy and regulation, and that's very straightforward. You can imagine that we're talking about standardization of regulations. In the region, traditionally, we have super low tipping fees for putting stuff into landfill. So in Saudi, it'll be like 7 riyals a skip, which is nothing. Here, it's been moved from 10 dirhams to 100 dirhams just recently in January, but that's not enough of a disincentive for material to go to landfill. So those recommendations are now under consideration. We're a member of the Circular Economy Policy Committee. The thing that's really exciting about this country is it's so forward-thinking. And we are the first country to actually have a circular economy policy that covers the 4 pillars, which is sustainable manufacturing, sustainable food production consumption, sustainable transport, and green infrastructure. So the 4 pillars are really well covered in this policy. It was released in January of last year. And now, as part of the Circular Economy Council, we are now developing the initiatives. Our focus is very specifically on packaging and recycling. So we're coming up, we've had a number of workshops under the sponsorship of the Ministry of Economy. We're coming up now with the initiatives. We need an iconic project. as I discussed with Arno yesterday, an iconic project because, guys, we are hosting COP28 next year. So we really need to be able to showcase something that we can show that we've really worked towards this. The Circle Coalition has now expanded work. We're under the Federation of Saudi Chambers in Saudi Arabia, where they are just starting this whole process, not really focusing on circular economy necessarily, but rather more on harmonizing, standardizing diversion from landfill through the National Center for Waste Management. So we have a coalition there that really encompasses the big guys. I mean, we've got SABIC, we have Al-Marai, Sadafka, Al-Rabia, so a lot of big local companies. So it shows you that the intention is there, the willingness from industry is there. We know we have to make a change. We know we have to contribute to the solutions. And there is a great deal of willingness to do that. We do not necessarily have the knowledge and the understanding across the board. In fact, when we published our study at the end of or beginning of 2020, I don't think anybody knew what circular economy was. I don't think anybody was talking about circularity. The focus was just on waste management, how to divert material from landfill. So that has accelerated quite fast. I think it's an amazing opportunity. The collaboration with the Netherlands for me is really important because you guys know about managing nature. And I think in terms of the initiatives that have come out from the Netherlands, I mean, yeah, Arno was telling me 5 years ago you weren't talking circular economy either, but you now have these great industrial collaborations with the port at Groningenburg, yeah? Groningen, apologies, my South African. So yes, that's basically what I'd like to share. Stephanie? Too quick? You want me to say more? I can talk for the whole afternoon if you want me to.
You're just in time. Really good timing of you. Thank you so much for your contribution, Sarah. And I've known Sarah now for a few months in the coalition circle, and I can say yes, it's very nice the collaboration already between the Netherlands and the UAE. So, Mehdi, can you give me a cue? Okay. We will go for now to a very nice overview of some showcases that we have from the Netherlands with us actually today. And they will lead you all throughout the value chain and show what they are actually contributing to it and why this part of the value chain is this important. So I would like to invite five people to the stage, and I will call you, but you already know who you are, of course. That's Farah Qureshi from Holland Water, Willem Sterkenburg, EcoSmart Renewy. Ja. Bollegraaf Erik Boksma, Ionica Maarten Stolk en Natural Bag Elwin van Scheven. Welcome. Really nice to have you here. In a second you will get your hand held so you can respond and people will actually hear you. For the first talk, we will have 5 very short enlightenment talks, and we hope that this will give some air in the program and that it will really inspire you and give you some new ideas of what already happens today in the market. So the first talk will be Farah Qureshi from Holland Water, and they're actually a sponsor of the pavilion, and their core business is water. So not in essence circular economy, but they have a really strong link to plastics. And Farah will explain how this link is made. So do we already have the microphones?
Oh, there's one right here.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, Farah.
I already have some slides. I don't know if you have those available, and if you don't, then...
The slides will come up in a second.
Thank you.
You want to sit or do you want to take this?
Yeah.
Maybe it's nice to...
Yeah, absolutely.
Have a stage for yourself?
Well, hello everyone. My name is Farah Qureshi and I am head of marketing for Holland Water. And we are a strange one here today because we're actually in the business of water, which is not necessarily a circular like plastics, but we have a strong bond with the topic, and I will tell you all about that. Could I have the next slide, please? I actually had a, thank you, very well
prepared pitch for this slide for you today. I'm standing here, I just think there's only one thing that I'm trying to say, and that is that there is a general unspoken consensus that bottled water somehow is fresher, cleaner, better, purer than tap water. But is it really? And is it worth the harm it does to our environment and also the harm it does to our health? Oh, next one. Yeah, that was the wrong button. So Sheikh Hamdan has already given an answer to that question. With his initiative, the Dubai Can, he encourages people to actually bring out their refillable bottles and use the water taps that are all across Dubai to reduce plastic waste. He is working together with a lot of international companies such as Culligan, such as Join the Pipe. And what I'm trying to say is that technology is here and is more than ever accessible. So, and as Stephanie said before, we're one of the sponsors for the pavilion. Right behind me, or actually behind me on the roof, and below me in the basement is an HW BiFiPro, which is one of our systems. We treat water with the use of copper and silver ionization, and that makes water clean and safe to drink. So a positive side effect is that we can arrange tap water anywhere. So that makes, for instance, the Holland Water bar, which is solely serving water from the tap, available. But technology is here, it is accessible, but I think there's also a shift in mindset that is needed. So at this moment, our team is staying at the Pullman Dubai Downtown, which is a great hotel group. They're part of Accor hotel group who has this fantastic ambition of reducing plastics mid-2022. So they want to install tap water and to encourage people to actually use their own bottles. But when I checked in, I was carrying my own plastic bottle. That is strange because I promote drinking from the tap. So I think even for people like you and me, there's still a shift in mindset needed. And that's why we're here today also, to look for fields of collaboration and just to see how we can work together with companies that are like-minded, but also individuals that have other ideas, and make small changes now for a big impact in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Farah. You may give it to Willem Sterkenburg from EcoSmart Renewing, because we heard you, of course, about eliminating waste from the whole process. Yes, of course.
Does this work? Yeah.
But even when we try to refuse using materials, it's not always possible, or yeah, sometimes it's just more convenient to use it. As Arnoud already said earlier, we don't actually even always want to eliminate plastics, for instance, but we want to use it in a good way. So
Exactly.
yes, and that's why we have EcoSmart here.
Yes.
And Willem Sterkenburg from EcoSmart, he will explain how you work on waste collection at the source and why that is so important.
Yes, thank you very much. Welcome everybody. It's good to present to you today the importance of waste collection at the source. I had to prepare 3 slides. It's good? Is all right? Oh, somebody's doing the next slide. Excellent. So I have 3 slides. Why is this so important to segregate the waste at the source? Well, one of the keynote speakers in the beginning of this event already told, because there's a scarcity of raw materials in the world. And he said the word World Overshoot Day this morning already. And that's the main reason why we need to create value out of the waste. For those, and I assume everybody in this room knows what Earth Overshoot Day is, but for those who don't, I wrote it down because that Earth Overshoot Day marks the date when humanity demands for raw materials in a given year exceeds what Earth can regenerate in that year. So basically that means that we need more than one Earth to produce everything we want or need. And that's impossible because we only have one Earth, as we all know. So, for example, Earth Overshoot Day for the UAE was March 13, just 10 or 11 days ago. So in the UAE, all the resources are used already for the products and the raw materials they need. And the problem is we can't consume less because the world population is growing. We want our economies to grow as well. So we have to look at waste in a different way. Because we do have the raw materials, but they're only concealed in the waste. So the first step in revealing those raw materials is by separating or segregating your waste at the source. Because if you do that, you remain the value of the raw materials. So that's the way to give new life to used materials, and that's the way to protect our world and the earth, and that's the way to make economy more circular. And of course, you said it as well, Arnoud, prevention is even better. So if we don't produce it, we don't have to throw it away, or we don't have to recycle or make it circular. So prevention is always better, but we do still have waste. So then try to separate it at the source immediately to keep the value. Because the sooner you separate your waste, the more value will remain. So how to organize this? Oh, I have to do my next slide. Oh, sorry, somebody did it for me. Thank you. How to organize this? Well, it's not rocket science, but you have to be prepared before you start collecting waste. Because first of all, you have to realize that waste management doesn't start just outside your building. It starts already within your office building. Where people come together, waste will appear, and you have to provide waste bins and collection modules to make it possible that you can really segregate your waste at the source. But be aware of the walking distance for employees, for example, because research has shown that on average people don't want to walk more than 50 meters just to throw their waste away. Just don't put them outside or about 100 meters far, because they won't make all that effort to segregate their waste. So you have to put the bins in the areas where they come more often, like copying areas, coffee corners, meeting rooms, places like that. And make sure that the configuration of the bins is suited for the department. For example, more paper bins, of course, in photocopying areas, or more organic waste bins in restaurant or catering areas. And as I said before, it's not rocket science, but think about it carefully in advance. And you make time and provide a budget to communicate about the new situation, because communication is very important to achieve new behavior. You can't expect people to change their behavior only because there are some new waste bins. And telling them how and why, that's really important as well. The 3 minutes are already over. Which leads me to my last slide, Stephanie. Yes, that's the one. Sorry. What are the benefits? Well, they're on the slide, so I won't read them out loud one by one. But I will. I think it's the last one. No, it's not the last one. But the last one, but not the least one, is that you will recover waste. You will recover value from waste and give new life to raw materials, so we can grow and develop our economies, and we go and at the same time save our planet. That's good. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Willem. And I don't know if you know already, but in the auditorium, they actually have the tulip there. That's the...
As an example, how you can segregate waste at the source. Yeah.
So definitely take a look there. Yeah. So for the next speaker, we have Erik Boksma here from Bollegraaf, and he will talk about sorting for quality feedstock.
Hello everyone, my name is Erik Boksma. I represent the Bollegraaf Group. We are a company that designs, builds and installs turnkey solutions for waste segregation, separation. And we believe that we are in this part of the circular economy. So we focus on mechanical sorting. I believe there are different countries with different concepts, and I don't think that it is necessarily wrong or right, but I do think that if you want to focus on circular economy, you need to avoid waste, and that's the basis of all. further steps need to be made, and we hope that we can be part of that. Part of that means that in order to become more effective, we need to have buy-in from public. And public doesn't only mean you and me, but also to have government help us providing the correct and right content. On the other hand, I believe that putting your waste or your product in a bin like Renewy just showed is just the beginning. Do not throw it out of the window, but really try to collect it in the right and proper way, but also have the infrastructure to actually collect it and further treat it. The economy for waste treatment is an economy by itself. So if we can fill in the different gaps, that it would be much more helpful for us to actually go on and reduce the carbon footprint. Because you can try, if you have 5 different products that you want to collect in the waste bin, and you want to do that on a large scale, that means you have 5 times to collect the waste, which of course from a carbon footprint is maybe not the ideal situation. So in some cases you need to combine that and separate it in a later stage. So we need always to think about the economical balance between having a clean product, as clean as possible, and keep it as clean as possible from the beginning till the moment you can recycle and reuse it. You see a move in this, the circle economy, that more and more we need to interact. Products that are complex, that are marketed on in the world, from a marketing point of view may be very sexy, but I think from a waste separation, a reuse point, sometimes really, really challenging. And there are many examples for that. So I think, again, if you look at the circle here, we need to talk upstream already from the design. Hello? Yep. From the design in order to have the value chain work very, very well. You maybe remember her, in Holland at least we have this commercial where actually it is shown that the waste is separated already from the beginning and make it easier for the processors to process.
Nu in 100% recyclebare petfles. Wel even ritsen om te kunnen recyclen.
So here you can see that actually the industry does think about waste and products that are out there in order to make it easier to separate, and then of course in the future easier to be reused in industries that come further. So waste is only waste.
Thank you so much
We don't value
for your
it.
contribution. So if we finally have collected and sorted waste in the right way, then we're actually, we can actually do some interesting things with it. So we have Maarten Stolk here from Ionica, and he would talk about the technology of chemical recycling.
Thank you, Stephanie. First of all, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here and to explain a bit about my company, which we are running currently with 50 people. I brought a bottle with me just to show you what our business is. Maybe it's not the right bottle, but I really don't like sodas, so I take a water bottle. If I just reflect on what I've heard today, I hear a lot of things, and I think everybody can align with the messages that have been shared here. We need to reduce plastic consumption. We need to design packaging in such a way that we can reuse it, repair it. But at the end, a plastic product remains a plastic product and has an end of life. And then we need to postpone it, sort it in such a way, and recycle. And my story is about the recycling bit. And recycling seems simple. However, I've been now active in Ionica for 3 years. It's not that simple as you may think. If I just look on a PET, and everybody knows the positive story that you have about the PET, we have been basically brainwashed with the PET industry, how well recyclable it is, we still have a little bit of fallout in the system. And the fallout has to do with additives in it, colorants, labels that are not removable, caps. We can go even further to liners, top foils for trays. And all these materials, they need to be separated out. However, with that separation, a lot of good PET material is lost and currently will not go to the market. And what we do at Ionica, we take that exactly that stream and we recycle it into the most valuable component that you can think of. It's a monomer that can be reused infinitely and as many times as you can imagine to make, again, such a bottle. And that's the power of chemical recycling. I'm not saying that this technology will replace everything and that it's the holy grail, but at least it's just a little part of the big puzzle that we need to solve, which is called decarbonization. So, in summary, taking the next slide, let me see. What do we do as Ionica? As a technology, we offer a scalable process that is currently 75% lower in CO2 emissions compared to virgin production. However, the biggest asset is that we don't need to take new natural resources from the ground. Secondly, we have an operational plant that is supplying the biggest global PET manufacturing currently active. And therefore we are endorsed by the market like Unilever, Coca-Cola, stating that this is a way forward to at least to explore. And our business model, which is a licensing business model, enables us to basically share this technology, what we have, our IP, quickly with the market to make the necessary steps to go to a more circular business model and a more circular economy. Of course, I can talk hours about my management team, but I will not do that. But what I do want to say is that it's not only the PET business that we want to conquer. We are also thinking of other materials. You can think of textile business, which is the next material issue that is pumping up, especially in Europe, currently with new regulations coming up, but also more on the biopolymers that everybody has very high hopes on, because at the end, these also needs to be recycled. That's it.
Thank you very much, Maarten. We have, at the end of the value chain, we have Natural Bag with Elwin van Schreven, and they actually make luxury bags from discarded waste, mostly agri-waste, but also plastics, non-plastics, looking like plastics. But Elwin can tell you everything about it, so I will give him the mic.
Thank you
and the clicker.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Elwin.
Thank you all for being here, distinguished guest. And a very, very big thank you to Expo Dubai 2020. They actually had the vision and the sustainability drive to really go for the best paper bag. As you can see, it is not a normal paper bag. But what is it? It is paper, yes, but the specialty of it is there's no trees inside. It is indeed taking the waste of what's left after the harvest. I will not bring you very many slides, just this one. As you can all see, in the bottom picture, it is one plant with a dual use. So the food crops goes to the food industry, and what's left, we make paper of it, and we use the paper to make high-end luxury bags, which, as you can read in the very small text, it's, of course, it is certified. It's certified for compostability and for food contact. But the real value in this is in the production of it. It's about half of the energy and the environmental impact compared to FSC paper. Towards recycled paper, you can see here, it's almost half of that as well. So it's just a beautiful product, and well, it's one plant, so you need one piece of land also, but it is an extra point of income for the farmer, and the yield of the cellulose is about 0.5 higher, so 1.5 times higher than of a hectare of forest. At Natural Bag, we like to say we put the tree on it, but not in it. I know we are very short for time. I can talk also for hours, but I see you looking already. If you have questions, please, come forward to us. We like to, to share the story. It's indeed a collaboration of all parties, all together, and also my fellow companies here in different fields. I mean, also a big thank you to Holland Circular Hotspot of bringing us together, and this whole week has been very inspirational and with cross sections, and well, I would leave it here, and I hope to talk to you further about it. Join us, and if you want to see the examples, by the way, you can buy little souvenirs for back home in the official stores, and you will get it in a natural AG waste bag. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we went all through the value chain from refuse, the highest that you can have actually in circularity, until upcycling waste. So thank you very much for showing us that all these steps already exist, and that we even have 2 examples here at Expo. That's, I think, amazing. Thank you so much. We will have a Q&A later, so if you have some questions, definitely ask them. If you won't have enough time, because I can imagine you have so many questions that it won't fit in just an hour, then we will have after this session also some drinks, and you can stay here and talk to each other. For now, I want to thank you. You can take your seats again. Also, for the people online, don't forget that you can use the Q&A. We hope to involve you later in the Q&A session at the end of this session. For now, I would like to. Oh, I have to get back a little bit because we were a little bit creative. Thank you so much for being here, Meera Al Shuwaihi. Meera works for the sorry, yeah. Meera works for the UAE Ministry for Climate Change and Environment, and she will give us some insights on what is happening there and what she's working on. Thank you so much for being here, Meera.
Good afternoon, all. It's my pleasure to be presenting the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment in this event. UAE has been putting a huge efforts into achieving sustainable waste management by working towards diverting waste away from landfill. Now, and that's also one of the ministry's main goals. This was done mainly by developing policies, regulations, and strategies, reducing waste generation, and developing sorting and collection transportation mechanisms for waste, in addition towards transforming waste into a valuable resource by using the most innovative and sustainable technologies. So the key existing regulations and strategies that support recycling in the UAE, we have the Federal Law number 12 for the year 2018. This law organizes and unifies the waste management process across all emirates to ensure that by using the most sustainable practices, to ensure that in each emirates we have the same regulations to make the process of waste management easier. And later on, the articles of the law were detailed in the executive bylaw number 39 for the year 2021. it defined the responsibilities for the local authorities responsible for waste management in each emirate, and also the responsibilities of suppliers and waste producers, which is the EPR, and the technical and regulatory requirements for the landfills, along with the types that you can transfer to the landfill, and it also defined the colors for the recycling bins to be unified across all emirates. And we have the Ministerial Decree number 21 of the year 2019, the use of recycled materials from the construction of demolition waste in road and infrastructure projects to avoid sending this type of waste to the landfill, and which takes a huge space of the landfill. And we have the last one, Ministerial Decree number 98 of the year 2019, which sets a requirement that the cement plants must use the RDF, a minimum of 10%, as a fuel in the factory. And this will start being applied after the RDF facility starts operating and producing RDF. Along with that, the ministry has worked in collaboration with the local authorities and developed a national integrated waste management strategy that set a forward plan that aims to make the UAE a pioneer in waste management through the approach of circular economy. This strategy is currently under approval by the Prime Minister Office. And we hope once the strategy is approved, it can really help start the waste management projects and facilitate recycling. So the key projects that we have the municipal solid waste treatment facility and production of refuse-derived fuel. This facility takes the municipal solid waste from both the emirates of Ajman and MOCCAE and transform it into RDF, which can be later used in the cement factories. The facility is working with the capacity to take 1,000 tons of MSW per day and can treat 700 to 800, produce 700 to 800 tons of RDF per day. And we have the Emirates Menjam waste collection centers in the neighborhoods and residential areas. This hub, as you can see here, it's located in the neighborhoods. We have 45 centers allocated across the Emirates of Dubai, Ras Al Khaimah, and Abu Dhabi. And inshallah, the other Emirates will follow their steps because we think it's an important step in waste management, the segregation from source. And we have the landfill rehabilitation project in the UAE's Emirates. It aims to rehabilitate the high-risk dump sites to prevent any effects on the human health and environment. MOCCAE City landfill was the first one to be rehabilitated since it's located near a hospital. It was rehabilitated in February 2020. And the local authorities also seek to rehabilitate the remaining landfills using the most modern technologies that helps by using the most sustainable resources and innovations and to make the best use of the land. Also, the local emirates in each emirates are working to achieve the integrated solid waste, like developing waste-to-energy projects, landfill-to-gas energy projects, and composting plants, waste-to-fuel projects. And we hope once this is all developed and accomplished and operating, it will help in increasing the recycling rate in the UAE and help us to achieve our visions to achieve sustainable waste management and an integrated approach in waste management. So currently, the challenges that we have is we need more public-private partnerships and more investments from the private sector in the waste management projects. Also, we have lack of incentives for the community to encourage them to segregate and recycle their waste, along with the awareness and the education, which is really hard for us since we, in the UAE, we have more than 50 nationalities and the habits of the community. So we need to educate the younger people, focus on them so they can transfer their knowledge and affect the behavior of people around them. And also the recyclable materials, it has a high cost, more than the raw materials. So we hope in the future that the cost will be more appealing for the manufacturers and buyers. And that are our efforts, and we hope we can achieve all of our waste projects so we can help achieve the vision of our leaders and help to make the UAE a pioneer in waste management. And it was my pleasure to present to you what our journey in waste management in the Ministry of Climate Change.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for showing us, giving us some insights of what you're working on from the ministry. I was privileged this week to already see some examples of it, and indeed, you are really already doing quite a lot in waste management. But it's also very impressive to see that the UAE is the first in the region to actually launch this CE policy. So it's really interesting to see that you choose opportunities over looking at an issue that should be solved. Thank you, Arnoud. Now I think we have quite some content, we got quite some information from different perspectives, and I think it's now time to discuss a little bit of what we heard and how people feel about it. And we have a panel today, and right after the panel we will have some time for questions, so also at home, please ask your questions in the Q&A. But for now I would like to welcome to the stage Pieter Imhof van TNO, Sarah Jackson from Coalition Circle, and Helene van Wijk from Groningen Seaport.
These tall chairs are always a bit of a challenge for me.
It's a high chair.
So, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Sarah, we've already seen earlier in this session, but Helene was also earlier today a speaker, but I don't know if all of you were already here, so I will give you a moment to introduce yourself in a second. And we also have Pieter Imhof here from TNO. Let me see. Pieter Imhof, you're a senior business developer at TNO, and you focus on circularity of plastics. Can you maybe give us a 2-minute introduction of what you do at TNO?
Thank you very much. Thank you also for being here. It's a pleasure also to be a part of this whole delegation. It's a great opportunity to see what has been achieved already here, what are the opportunities here, and also what kind of collaborations we have here. Now, within TNO, we are working on the circular economy and environment, and in particular, I'm involved in circular plastics and chemicals. What we try to achieve is, next to developing technologies which help in further bringing innovation into the market and getting commercialized technologies and products, we also help in networking, forming this coalitions of partners, collaborations with different parties, product-private partnerships and so on, to get these innovations really in the commercial market, that the circular solutions are possible between different businesses. So making networks, to give also clear vision on how streams, quality, economic aspects help in integrating, but also what the challenges are there, and we give support for governments, but also for investors to see what the best opportunities are in this whole value chain. So we talk a lot about the different aspects of it, and we see what the best opportunities are with respect to sequence of events, reuse, recycle, and all kinds of design for recycle principles.
Well, let's talk about it in a minute, a bit more. First, we have here Helene van Wijk from Groningen Seaports, and she's business manager circular economy there. You have a video for us.
Yeah.
We have it here. I think it might be nice to watch it first, so
that's
they
cool.
can actually see. It's a nice illustration of what you're doing there in Groningen. And then maybe I will give you 30 seconds.
I was thinking, yes, 30 minutes again, but
30 seconds afterwards to tell a little bit about what we saw. And then we will go quickly to the panel discussion.
Welcome in the Northern Netherlands Circular Hub. In Delfzijl and Eemshaven, we focus on a full circular economy. In our ports, companies recycle plastics, steel, textiles, composites, e-waste, batteries, and much more. In the Northern Netherlands, we facilitate the whole ecosystem, from feedstock to end market. With all the advantages of a surrounding ecosystem, we can help you to optimize and scale up your business. We'll be your jump board for the world's markets, with the European market right around the corner. Schools, local governments, NGOs and industry work together here to achieve a sustainable circular world, supported by all generations. World-leading companies like Bollegraaf Recycling have their R&D facilities close to our port. The newest technologies and machines to realize the circular economy are developed right here in our region. We believe that every feedstock stream can be made of value again. Industrial symbiosis and circular business models are fully integrated in all our feedstock supply chains. Green feedstock and energy available in abundance. Hydrogen Valley of Europe. Excellent infrastructure in our ports. Financial support from the region. And world-class talent in our cities. We got it all. Groningen Seaports is building the infrastructure for a full circular industrial park for your company to establish your business in and flourish. Want to know more? Contact us.
Well, we have her here live. So, Helene, would you like to have 30 seconds to explain a bit what we saw?
Yeah, when we started this mission, I think the first keynote speaker said it's very good to be positive about yourself. Well, that's at Groningen Seaports, our sales team and marketing team made this video. So it's a bit of a sales pitch, but what I like about it is that you really see the infrastructure that we have in the port. Of course, in ports it's always a bit abstract to think about, and this video really shows what's happening. And the fact that we not only work on the industrial
part, but also, as was discussed this morning, on the people that live around our port, the citizens. We really work together with them, and we want to have them involved, not only as employees in our port, but also to support what we do, and from a port side to support them. So, as I already said this morning, I'm responsible for our recycling cluster, our circular economy cluster. So that's also part of my job.
I think you're quite successful in the regional approach. For you, Sarah Jackson, working here in the UAE, the regionality is sometimes more of an issue. How do you deal with that?
I don't think it's so much an issue as it is overcoming perceived barriers. I think that's the more important thing. I think when you talk across different regions, so I mentioned the example of the Emirates with their different regulations and so on. The ultimate aim is to be able to say, look, there is a possible solution. People are prepared to work towards that. So having agreement between different Emirates to fulfill on a particular project is doable. People are willing to do that. I think the question is always overcoming the barrier of changing things. It's the transformation process that's difficult. And that's where you have to really work hard. But the intention and the commitment of people to make, and the positivity and the willingness to make the change is definitely there. It's about providing them with, look, this is what it's going to look like. And then they'll say, yes, this is what we can work towards.
Okay, so it's often about the people, it's often about explaining them what's possible, but also what we saw just now in these enlightenment talks, there are quite some solutions. Of course, they can work together. They don't have to be conflicting. But Pieter, how do you look at that? Because, for instance, mechanical recycling, just as an example, but maybe you have some other insights. Are there conflicts of interest between technologies?
I wouldn't say directly conflicts of interest. It's really a chain, and I think everybody says it already. There's not one solution fits all. So you have to look at the different, the feed streams that you have, and then the solutions that you need to have, and then looking at the specifications which are currently available or needed, which could be adapted based on the feedstocks that you have available, and then see which streams would fit best and which kind of adaptation you would need to make to achieve those. And that sounds very high level, but it implies that, for example, for chemical recycling, you will have different specifications than for mechanical recycling. So the treatments to get there are different as well. And these will be dependent again on the region, on the type of feedstock and those kind of things. So there's no conflict. It is only putting them in the right chain together. And some solutions are fit for a very dirty chemical oxide waste streams. Other ones need to have a very specific stream. So, and that can be combined. So conflicting none. It's when you look at the overall perspective, it could be that a solution which looks very nice, when you look at the impact, for example, it could be CO2, it could be raw material usage, is not the best in the whole system. And that's something there where you need to develop the chain and also collaborate and assess together what the impact would be and what the best solution would be.
You mentioned finding the right fit, get them together. Mm-hmm. For you, Helene, as with the regional approach, how do you find the right stakeholders? How do you get them together, and also the right technologies that fit and actually close this value chain?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it's a lot about working together with, you have the triple helix with the government, knowledge institutions, and the companies, of course. In circular economy, we now already talk, speaking of buzzwords, about the pentahelix, because you really need to have that customer, that citizen involved in your process as well. And because you work in order to get a value chain and to get consortiums, you also need structured finance to finance those consortiums. And it's always important who's going to do what, and everybody needs a business case, of course, so it's really about working together. But we are in business, so you all need to have your business case in place, of course. In Groningen Seaports, we work with a cascading principle, so every type of feedstock needs to be recycled or upcycled as in the highest value that is possible for that type of feedstock. But when you go into recycling, you always have a residual stream, and you need to recycle that as well. And we really try, like Pieter already said, to recycle every type of stream as high as possible, but everybody needs to have the business case. So companies can't do it alone. You need to innovate and innovate to work with the knowledge institutions, and you need governmental support as well in the financial sector as in regulations, of course, to get the market to work. Yeah, so there's a lot to be done. Of course, it involves a lot of Teams meetings nowadays, and hopefully real meetings again, and a lot of cooperation. And then it's always important to keep in mind that you have a lot of meetings, but you also have to do a lot of work. So you need to find balance in that. But in the Northern Netherlands, we say we are small enough to know each other very well, but we are big enough to make impact and to build consortiums that make impact. So I think, yeah.
So you're mentioning consortiums, coalitions. Then we have Sarah here actually working on coalitions.
Yes.
Could you respond to Helene?
Yes, I think because you're obviously looking from the industrial manufacturing perspective, and I'm looking across the value chain. So we extend even to the retailer. So what is the role of the retailer in this whole process? Environmental service providers ultimately are collecting the waste from our consumers. So that part of the value chain is also included. And I think for us, the beauty of what we do is we're partnered with the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment. They actually sponsor the coalition. We had an MOU with them in 2019. So we get a lot of government input and support. So whether it be the Ministry of Economy, whether it be the Ministry of Climate Change, it's really a public-private partnership that's driving this forward. In terms of the commitment from the companies, many of them have made global commitments to have 100% of their packaging recyclable by 2025. And of course, there's no point having recyclable packaging if it's going to landfill. So the whole piece around collection of material, recovery of material, and processing of material is super critical. They have targets. We've got kind of, 3 years to go before that global commitment comes to life. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done because the infrastructure is not in place. We have recycling facilities. Most of them do not have feedstock. They have to actually import material to process. So working on the entire ecosystem is absolutely critical. And that's where this collaboration across the value chain makes so much sense. Because as packaging suppliers or as polymer suppliers, you have a different view of the value chain. And that's where the innovation and the creativity can actually come to life, is the interaction between the different players and the expertise that they have in a particular part of the value chain. So I'm really hopeful. I know that Europe is very well advanced in this process and on this journey. In the region, in the Middle East, the conditions are extremely different. So the solutions that are applied in Europe are not necessarily going to be the kinds of solutions we come up with here. But there is enough intelligence, resource, commitment, willingness to make this happen for us to develop the kinds of solutions that we need for the UAE and in fact for Saudi, Bahrain, Qatar. They all sit with the same issues. So
I see that Pieter wants to respond to this, maybe from a knowledge perspective.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say directly from a knowledge perspective, but I see that we are looking very often only, let's say, at the material flow and those kind of things. But you hear that there's also a circularity needed in business models, in impact assessment. So a benefit which is very good for one party could be very negative for the other one. Look always at the CO2. So at a certain moment you can develop a technology. It's very good, it looks like very good, but when you look at the overall impact, then it could be very negative. So the one-fit-for-all solutions are not there. And I always say the single-use plastics that they banned, that's not always the best. The solution, which is an alternative for that, is not always the best one when you look at from, for example, impact effect. So in fact, what you need to do is look at the whole, indeed, business for each party involved. How can you all benefit from it? Not only commercially, but also in impact and in social behavior and those kind of things. So it's not an easy one, but it's too easy to give only a technical solution for it. So that's why I say collaboration modes are different and needs to be adapted regionally, but also, let's say, from a waste perspective or output perspective.
Yeah, we've had some interesting conversations about this topic. So Arnoud Passenier, would you like to respond as well? Would you like to add to this? Oh.
Yes, I may. Okay. In the end, if you think a lot about circularity, it's not about the materials themselves or the products themselves or the business models themselves. In the end, it's about our own behavior, which has to change. And we know all that behavioral change is very complicated, very difficult. So you need to have an enabling environment and enabling infrastructure, but you need also to have the motivation of the people themselves, the consumers, but also the producers and the retailers to give the right incentives to make it easy to change your behavior. Often retailers, supermarkets are keen how to change the consumer behavior to sell more. But they can also provide other options for consumers to adopt circularity in their buying behavior. And I think that's also one issue where so we look in our policies in the Netherlands not only on the materials flows and recycling facilities, etc., but also we have a team fully focused on behavioral change and how to do that, and communicate about it, and not only communicate as a government, but also using all the other stakeholders to do the same. In the end, we have to change all, but behavioral science can help us to achieve that transition towards circular economy.
We talked. Sorry. Yes,
could I respond to that?
Yes,
yeah,
sure.
I really like this topic because I work for the port, of course, and it's all industrial and about business cases, as I said. So in my free time, I have a foundation. It's called the Northern Netherlands Plastic Foundation, and we're all about communication, what happens in recycling industry and what happens in plastic industry to local people in the Northern Netherlands of every generation. So in my free time, I often take a free day, and then I go to school classes, and it's people from 4-year-old, children from 4-year-old till 16-year-old who need to find a job. So really different kind of classes that I give, but it's about the jobs that are here, like circular designer, but also about what to do with your waste. And I really noticed that in the younger generation, like the children between 4 and 10, they have a completely different mindset already. They are all about preventing and reusing and refusing, and a lot more than people of my age and older generations. So I think that's very good. But I also think consumers, for them it's very hard to know what is the most sustainable way, because when you're in the supermarket you have all those different kind of options, and you have the discussion about biodegradable and bio-based, and that's very hard. So with our foundation we also try to really give very simple tools to people and very practical tips, like this is a sustainable thing to do and these are the consequences of it. Because I think even us as experts in the buses, when we were driving here, we had a lot of discussions like this is sustainable and this isn't, but that is a very hard topic. So very good that we are all so focused on that as well.
And so Sarah, Circle Coalition represents a couple of brand owners. Could you respond to how you are working on the consumer, how they behave?
So one of the partnerships we did was with Recap, which is an initiative by Veolia, where they do door-to-door collection of recyclables. And that's really important, because you can imagine that when you're sitting in the heat of summer here, you don't want to be dragging the recyclables in the boot of your car and going standing them and putting them in one of the community bins, because it's really, really hot. So the door-to-door recycling really serves this whole convenience point. The way that Veolia does that is they have this clear plastic bags. They educate consumers. It's on social media, so they have an app. And they tell consumers or households exactly how and what should be recycled. So how do you clean the material? What sort of material? They inspect it when they collect it. They weigh it, and you get points. So Carrefour, as an example, has share points. For every gram that you collect, you get points. And you can redeem those points through Carrefour or through some of the other rewards programs. And they scaled that up in Abu Dhabi. They went from 500 households participating to 10,000. They launched now in Dubai. And the way that the brand owners participated was obviously beyond the partnership agreements with Veolia. They used the messaging platform of Recap. They used it in their own brand communication. So we had brands that are recyclable, that you can recover. We did promotions in Carrefour at point of sale to showcase those brands. And of course, then also to promote the Recap. So it's a very practical solution for households. People are really willing. I mean, if you look at the consumer research that's been done, you have around 5.7 million people in the UAE who are aware of the environmental concern. They want to do something about it, but it has to be easy or it has to be rewarding. You've got the eco-warriors, the guys who will stand in the sun and put their stuff in the bins in the middle of summer. You have those guys, but they're a small percentage. The rest of us need to be rewarded and incentivized and have convenience. So that really shows that you have to adapt your model to consumer behavior. You have to understand what the consumer's doing, how they're behaving, and then adapt your solution to that.
Pieter, go ahead.
Is there also an incentive to reuse?
And not at this stage. The incentive right now is just simply on collection. What's interesting about it is they ran a prize competition during Ramadan of last year. The number 1, 2, and 3 recyclers who won that prize in Abu Dhabi were all kids. It was all the kids who were actually...
That's amazing.
Who are actually taking the effort and the trouble to do that. Now, on the reduction side, Pieter, that's a huge discussion. Mm-hmm. We're focusing right now on what happens when you finished using the product. I think getting the understanding of how to make the right choices to reduce your consumption is a very big topic. But one of the things they've done now is also in Dubai, they've banned single-use plastic bags. Now, I'm glad the guy that was here with his natural bags, because the immediate knee-jerk reaction, there you are, yes. The knee-jerk reaction is to use paper, right? And that's obviously not the solution. So educating consumers is, as you mentioned, it's a complicated topic. There's a lot of unintended consequences. People will come out with the idea of biodegradable, oxo-biodegradable, horrendous, and consumers buy that because they don't know, they don't understand it. So you really, like your foundation does, we have organizations that do that here as well. The consumer education piece is huge. It's really critical to the whole conversation because it's a complicated topic.
Yeah, really interesting topic as well. And
Yes.
I really saw some nice initiatives as well to focus indeed on the younger generation, on education,
Yes.
which is very nice to see.
Yes.
Okay, we have to round up the panel discussion, but maybe I can ask all of you what you bring home today from this session. Pieter, can I start with you?
No, a very short one. I think every region has its own solution. I think a lot of technical solutions or societal solutions are there, but every region needs to adapt to that. And we learn a lot. We thought we are far ahead in the Netherlands, but when you look at all kinds of other initiatives, you see that you can learn and adapt to the full system where you reach really higher circularity. So I'm very positive about that respect.
And for you, Sarah, COP coming up, do you see any... I think you see some momentum, but do you see any opportunities?
I see huge opportunities. I think, if you think about nature, nature's a system. One species waste is another species resource, and I think we saw that exactly in your example. But also what was highlighted for me with Martin was the complementarity of mechanical recycling and, hi Martin, mechanical recycling and chemical recycling to manage that end-of-life product that cannot be recycled mechanically. So that working together to solve these problems as they arise for me is a big learning. I'm looking forward to having the expertise and the support that we see here to define what the solutions. Because if a solution works in the UAE, it will work in Saudi, it will work in Bahrain and Qatar. So we're an ideal test bed, I would say, for technologies, for come here, come and test it out. Yeah, we're happy to have you.
Helene, some last words from you. What would you like to give the audience today?
Yeah, well, for me, the whole trip that we had, it's our last day, of course, it was very inspirational. And the inspirational part is the more you travel, the more you see that everywhere in the world, there are people that are working on creating coalitions, that are working on circular economy and on sustainability. And no matter where you arrive in the world, people are already busy with everything, thinking about new solutions, new innovations, and yeah, I really think that is amazing, and that gives me a lot of confidence that we will get there to those circular goals, and that we'll get there worldwide. So that is, very happy with it.
So, are there any questions from the audience? Yes, just a second. I will give you the microphone. Test. It works.
Thank you. It's not even a question, but maybe a resume of whatever we take away. It's been a lot what we learned, but in this part of the world, as you said that you have to understand the region. Everything has to be imposed from the top in this country, and it's got to be either the government or even the royal family. But it has to be done. We're doing a research with LSE, and they're actually trying to find out why Dubai is not catching up this quickly. And it's really maybe the incentives, but the incentives will only work if they are being taken by learned people. But the household, like domestic help culture, which we have in this country, so you can teach everyone everything, but in the end, it's the domestic help which needs to, do the things, and that changes. So there is a lot, which needs to be learned in this part of the world, but they're catching up, maybe much faster than us in the Netherlands or from the northern countries. But I think the interaction and the consortiums and the platforms, that we are talking about, is very, very necessary. And as COP26. Boris Johnson said, it's not about the blah, 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 you keep on talking about it and don't do anything. We really actually now need to do things. And that's for 28.
The one thing that I always say is we're very much like Singapore, right? We're here courtesy of the government, so it's not that hard to make sure that behavior can be encouraged, that behavior can be enforced. And I think we see that now coming through with the different policies in the different emirates. For sure, if you think about the ruling family, Her Highness Sheikh Shama Al Nahyan has a foundation, the Alliance for Global Sustainability. She's really pushing this hard. His Highness Sheikh Abdulaziz Al Nuaimi, as an example, he's the Green Sheikh. He's pushing it really hard. So I think what I said, the sentiment that Sheikh Zayed originally had about conserving and preserving our natural heritage for the future, that's well embedded. It's a question of giving them the picture and saying this is how we progress towards that. And that's where the policy, the circular economy policy comes in. It's a roadmap. Now industry has to step up. We have to bring in the solutions and execute. Consumers will follow. Consumers are keen. Yeah.
Do we have any? I see another question in the room. I will bring you to. It's okay. Thank you.
Hello, this is Farah from BIA. Hi, Sarah. I've met with you regarding the incentive bottle return scheme project for Emirates of Abu Dhabi. I don't know if you remember me. My colleague just checked the app, Recap app, and she found some areas in Dubai are covered by Recap.
Yes.
If Recap extended to Emirate of Sharjah, we're active regarding waste management in Sharjah. We're very active. So if you extend it to Emirate of Sharjah, don't you think that there'll be a conflict of interest between MRF, the material recovery facility, and Recap? Since 50% of the profit, according to the chairman of the MRF, 50% of the profit of the MRF is generated from the PET.
Yeah.
So how this conflict could be?
I don't think it's necessarily a conflict, because we will always need the material recovery facilities. We will always need the segregation That will always be there. And when you look at what happens in tower blocks as an example, you're not going to be able to cover 100% of the population for sure. What we're talking about is a specific part of the consumer profile who really want to do something about this, and this is the service they have. I think the way that this will work with the environmental service providers is in making sure that the clean segregated material is available. And that's where you get your highest value. So from the MRF, what you're selling, if you sell clean material, you obviously earn a much higher value from that than what you do. That's the business model. So we need the feedstock. We only have 1.1 million metric tons of plastic. That's not a lot, actually. We're not a big population here. So if you're talking about recycling infrastructure and capacity and investment, you have to have the return on that. And being able to secure that feedstock, whether it be through the MRF, whether it be through the door-to-door collection, doesn't matter. We will generate the value out of that. So, and ultimately, BIA will control whether or not recap gets to go to Sharjah, right?
Okay, Sarah, I have a closing question for you from online.
Yes.
From the people looking at our session. And the question is quite long and has a couple of question marks, but let's try to go through it. Okay, so where does the UAE see the lowest hanging fruit in terms of circular economy opportunities? And then the real question comes, what would be needed to grasp the opportunities, and what role would you like the Dutch to play?
Okay. The first thing is you saw from our lady from Holland Water that we use a lot of bottled water, right? So PET is obviously a low-hanging fruit. There is a project on the go now for a mechanical recycling facility in Kizad in Abu Dhabi and the free zone there. The big missing element of that is the recovery, the collection at source, and making sure that that's clean and segregated material, because obviously that's what we need, especially for food grade. The highest value that you can get out of recycled material is obviously food grade packaging. Today, we can allow imports of product in recyclable packaging, but we do not allow the manufacture locally of products in recycled packaging. So we're busy working on the standards that will enable that as well. In terms of the way forward, you know, the Dutch expertise is well known around the world. So, I mean, from a point of view, whether it be the chemical recycling for the end-of-life product, whether it be I saw the thing about the EcoSmart and the recovery, the technology. We don't have a lot of MRFs. We have a very big state-of-the-art MRF in Dubai, which has got artificial intelligence and so on. But what's going into that MRF is still wet feedstock, which doesn't help, right? And the same with beer. Beer recovers around 76% diversion from landfill. But still, it's not the right quality material. So having that facility is really important. And going forward, support. I mean, you have the knowledge, you have the expertise. I think it's been able to provide that into the local governments and the local initiatives so that we can leapfrog your learning. I mean, we don't want to make the same mistakes you made 5 years ago. I'm not saying they were mistakes, by the way.
Learnings.
Learnings.
Yeah.
So we definitely see that many things are happening, both in the Netherlands as in the UAE. You're working on a lot of initiatives already, not you, but UAE.
Yeah, the coalition,
brought.
yeah.
So, yeah, well, now we need to work together. Let's see if we can collaborate. And I think in this past week, we already made some nice steps of searching for each other, finding each other, and having some nice discussions about it. For now, I have to close the seminar. But thank you so much for your contributions and for the discussion. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And for everyone. We will still be here for like another hour, so you can, if you didn't want to ask your question publicly, you can still find our panelists, but also the showcases that we showcased before around. Thank you so much again.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
So, yeah, what I said already, we see so much movement also in the UAE. So many things are happening, much interest also from the UAE, but now we have to go to the next steps, and I hope that this was a really nice, fruitful start of future collaboration. I hope that this seminar was also an interesting insight for all of you watching online, but also for the people who are in the room and listening from somewhere here in the building. But for now it comes to an end, and also our week, our visit to the UAE comes to an end. So I would like to call Ruben Dubelaar here, my colleague from Holland Circular Hotspot, who organized this day together with me. Yeah, we would like to thank a lot of people. Many organizations were involved. Also, all of you just being here, just listening in the conversation, asking your questions, having a role in the seminar. It's very valuable to be here together. And I'd like to give the word to Ruben.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. Well done on this seminar. And maybe a few closing remarks. And we especially also would like to thank all the people involved from the ministries, from the catering, the people from Technique. They've been working hard to make this happen. And of course, all speakers from UAE, the Dutch companies involved. So everyone, thanks a lot for joining in. Also for our online viewers, thanks a lot for joining us. And I hope it was fruitful, and we're looking forward to the next session. Stephanie, well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
See you next time. Bye-bye.
See you next time.